Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kasa podcast. Today, we're going to be having a lovely conversation on boundaries. I'm super excited because I have some new faces and some old faces in the house. I'm new as in they've been here only a few times, and then we have our old heads who have always been here. They've always been doing their thing with us, and I am going to bring everybody back into the studio. I have been trying not to get Efia Yeboah in the studio as always. I want to be the only one who has the sole um prerogative of having been on every show. So now I've kicked Efia Yeboah out of the studio. I have Chris, I have Fresla, and I have Sam in the building. Guys, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. And you?
I'm
I'm
good.
good.
I'm good. Just because I kicked Efia Yeboah out, Fresla is like, I'm not going to talk to you again. Fresla,
I
welcome back on the show. I hope you
thank
enjoyed it the
you.
first time you were here.
Yes, I did.
Do you know why you enjoyed it? Because Chris wasn't here, and now that he's here, he's going to make sure your time on the show is so miserable. So,
Oh,
Oh, I don't do that. I don't do that.
all right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about boundaries. So, personally, if Chris crosses any boundaries, you have to let him know. Um, we're going to have a conversation around boundaries in relationships, especially romantic relationships. But I think the concept and the principles of it they can carry into other kinds of relationships. But today we're going to talk about boundary setting, the importance, the why, the how, the when, and all those fun things that go up with setting boundaries. I'd go around the room and ask you guys if you guys think boundaries are important. Chris, do you think boundaries are important to have in relationships?
Oh yes, I mean boundaries are very important. We must set boundaries in everything, relationships, friendships, workplace, classroom, everything. But the
Hmm.
ultimate is, I mean, romantic relationships. We must set
Hmm.
boundaries. They are very,
We
very
must.
important. Yeah.
Hmm. Very important. I see. Miss Lowe, are boundaries important? And why are they important? It's a more important question. Why are they
Mm.
important if you think they are?
Oh, okay. So I think they are extremely important,
Mhm,
and like Chris said, it's necessary to set them in any form of relationship you have with
mhm,
anyone, but
mhm,
particularly for romantic relationships, because this is someone you spend most of your time with,
mhm,
at least. So you need to be very comfortable with how the person relates with you and how you'd also relate with the person. So for romantic relationships, I think it's very important because I do not want to personally, I do not want to be having issues with someone I'm considering a romantic partner.
mhm,
So it's
mhm,
necessary to, set out some rules. And it's not like you have to outrightly say, okay, I like this, I like that, I like no. There
mhm,
are ways you have to talk about it, and then it's just so you can relate with the person better.
mhm,
And as you're setting these boundaries, you're kind of setting some for yourself as well. So you know that this is what you need to do to make people happy or who you are
mhm,
in a relationship with. So
mhm.
everyone can be comfortable in their space. So I think it's really important.
I see. Miss Lowe thinks it's important. Mr. Smith, I'm coming to you. What do you also think? Do you think boundaries are important? And what are boundaries to you? When we talk about boundaries to you, what are they?
Oh well, to me, boundaries are kind of like um restrictions or kind of restrictions we give others like to not cross. It's a thing about respect with me. I mean, if there are certain things that irk me and I prefer they are not done around me, like regarding the relationship I have with you, I think there are things that need to be respected. So it's a thing about respect to me, and I think they are extremely important.
Hmm.
If you value me and you have respect for me, yeah,
Hmm.
be instituted and they have to be respected.
Interesting.
But yeah,
Respect, and you kept repeating that, and I think it's going to be one of those things that is going
Yes,
to
that's meant.
really it's going to be one of those things that is going to come up a lot in the conversation. Before we really dig in deep, a lot of the comments are coming, right? Let me get through a few of them because my people are here. Casey Frost is here because he said it's go time. Casey, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, brother. Man, that picture in that profile is fire. It's fire. If you're a boy, hello, my people. If you're Abna is asking, where is Ifia Yeboah? Abna, I kicked Ifia Yeboah out of the studio. She's been fired. No, no, no. She had other things she had to handle. Something came up and Ifia had to ditch her. So, but the tribe stays strong. Next person up came through for us. Black Arabian, it's really lovely to see you, brother. I hope you're doing well. Kwesi, you fired Ifya. Yes, we fired Ifya. Kwesi, you told me to fire her, and I have. By popular request, I have fired Ifya. PY is here. Kwesi, I was fired today just because they asked my you to relax. Oh, look at you. If you're you can't come and lie. Presla, you have to answer this. Do you think she was fired because she talked about Man United?
Not at all.
Not at all. If you're a boy, you can't be lying like that. The snitching has to be accurate. Oh my god. Oh my god. We're not sensitive. Oh, when did they say that? Quizzy, it's not true. We're going to talk about boundaries. And if Fia has clearly crossed some Kasa podcast boundaries, she really has crossed some boundaries. But now we all sort of agree, or at least there's a consensus in the room that boundaries are important in relationships, right? And I think for me, the definition that we sort of that often comes to our minds, which is very close to what Smith brought up, was, the things that um, you put in place, right? That sort of require, or they communicate certain needs, emotions, thoughts, or things that would need to be respected, right? To bring peace and balance between you and your partner, right? So the things, my needs, my emotional stuff, my sometimes physical, psychological needs that a person has that need to be respected so that the relationship with a person becomes peaceful and would have a healthy relationship, right? Those become my boundaries. And it's important to sort of set them and communicate them. And so we sort of have tackled the why boundaries, or what they are. But I would go around the room and ask you guys, if you want to share, what are some of your boundaries? What would you guys consider, when it comes to boundaries? These are some of the things I think about. Miss Low, you're smiling and you're happy. What are some of your boundaries?
Oh, as in like very personal. We are going
uh,
personal.
you can tell me about your boundaries.
Um,
Or what are boundaries? What are some things that can be considered boundaries for people?
okay, so
Mhm,
generally for people, I think an example would be, let's say, certain physical boundaries. I know there are people who do not really like it when someone is always in their space.
mhm, mhm,
So they try to set that form of boundary and
mhm,
let their partners know that, look, I love you and all, but sometimes I just want to be by myself. I just want to be alone. So I'd want you to respect that boundary.
mm,
So at that moment, sometimes it becomes a problem because let's say you're talking to someone and this person is telling you, I like to be by myself sometimes, and then you are also a physical person. You dwell or you live off the energy of your partners or your partner's presence.
mhm,
So then it becomes a problem. But then again, it's important to let your partner or your potential partner know that this is how you like to live sometimes, and this is how you get your comfort. So your partner must respect it. So setting a physical boundary like that, it's
mhm,
important. Yeah, these are some of the examples. Personally, mm, I think my boundaries would all be related to maybe respect. You know, just saying the right things that wouldn't emotionally affect me or
mm,
something like that. So it's just about knowing what to say and knowing what to do
Mm.
while respecting me. That's it.
Make you know come stress me. Oh. Okay, Mr. Smith, what are some boundaries? What are things you'd consider as boundaries for people or even for yourself?
Well, Miss Lou talked about physical boundaries. I'm gonna mention like regarding comments. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
people joking about certain stuff like weight,
Mm,
your height,
mm,
your looks. I mean, you can have a relationship with people, friendly, romantic, whatnot, and it's normal to make jokes, but maybe there are certain things that are delicate to you, delicate topics you wouldn't want to be joked about. This is just an example. So yeah, comments. You can set boundaries with comments as well.
Interesting. Um, Mr. Chris, you go ahead. What are some boundaries for you?
I'll well before I even talk about the boundaries, I just wanted to say something small about what Miss Lowe said about
Mm-hmm.
space. I think romantic relationship is all about compromise, right? So if you are saying you want space, I mean it depends, but I mean sometimes we should also consider like the partner too. So I mean that's something that we can talk about later. But when it
Mm,
comes to boundaries, for me, I set boundaries with usually if the person is a potential partner
mm-hmm.
and someone who I'm taking serious. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in their relationship, you won't take the person serious and then
Mm-hmm.
take it to the next level. I think I will look at boundaries in general from respect, the kind of things you say, the kind of things you do. Um, there, I'll just talk about like general boundaries. For example, um, your let me talk about financial boundaries first.
Mm-hmm.
I am very particular about finances, right? When it comes
Mm,
to finances, how do we talk about our finances or how do we manage our finances?
mm,
Are we going to, I mean, I'm always thinking about future. If I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, what are some of the things we must not go there, like when it comes to money? Are we having separate accounts? Are we having accounts together? If you're having separate accounts, what must we do? What must we not do? So when it comes to finances, I'm very particular about that. The next thing has to do with also comments, like Mr. Smith said. Some topics are very sensitive areas with regards to religion, ethnicity, background, like where you grew up, how you grew up, your training, and all that. So it is nice to always first set those boundaries that I'm not comfortable with these kind of comments. I'm not comfortable with these kinds of conversations and all that. And then I mean, setting these boundaries will make the relationship more comfortable for both of you, where there will be no quarrels. There will be, I mean, quarrels will come though, but it will not be on these things that are very sensitive that can make the relationship end or something like that.
mhm. Interesting. I like the fact that you touched on the financial aspect. And I think it's one of those things we might have to dive in and have a whole separate episode for, like a whole episode to discuss these things. And I think it's going to dovetail neatly into the next segment I want us to get into, the when, because with the finances and stuff like that, it's a question of when in the relationship with the person do you set this? Because if you're going to go on a first date with someone and start laying out things like, yeah, listen, we're going to have separate bank accounts on the first date, it would just be weird. But
Yeah.
so I think some boundaries, and just to answer the question, would be business. how people handle their business. If I have an issue with someone, sometimes I want to handle it, right? The fact that we're romantically involved doesn't mean you go about fighting my battles for me. Sometimes they can really backfire, and often it tends to deal with family, right? Sometimes someone will feel their partner being disrespected, especially by a sibling or something. And then by the time you realize they've jumped and handled business, sometimes those would be boundaries. When it comes to things with me and my friends, I would love to settle that. That is clearly a me thing. And I think respecting those things and not trying to save situations often leads to a lot of peace. And again, we're talking about things that would lead to peace between you and your partner. And I think those are some of the things that really can go wrong, right? I've had so many times. If I could count, if I was supposed to count the number of times I've had, I felt you were disrespected. And so they're sort of stepping in and saving the the situation. It often doesn't end well. I think it's one of those things boundaries people normally cross. And like we've talked about, emotional things, things that, these things don't make me comfortable. Jokes like this don't make me comfortable. Saying things like this don't help, right? Those are things that we normally have to lay out. But agreeing that boundaries are important, and I am talking about the why they're important, and even mentioning some of these boundaries, I want to ask you guys the next question. When do we set boundaries? At what stage should we set boundaries? I'm going to go to Miss Low first, and I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you this question. Does the when you set the boundary depend on the type of boundary it is?
Hmm.
Does the when depend on the type of boundary?
Um, well, I think so. I think it depends on the type of boundary you want to set. But
Mm,
then again, for instance, like what Mr. Chris spoke about, I don't know if it will be okay to set financial boundaries on your first date or on the
mm,
second date, and then you
mm.
start talking about shared accounts and oh, my money is my money. Oh, you know, it can be a turn off. I don't know, but on a first date, I don't think I want to hear about how you want us to be managing finances on the first or second date. So I feel like sometimes some of the boundaries can be set at a later time, into the relationship where you are still getting to know each other. But maybe first, second dates, there are a lot of things. It's not like you're setting that boundary straight, but out of conversation, your partner can pick it up that,
Mm.
oh, you do not like it. For instance, you on your second date, your husband picks, I said husband.
First love fast forwarded a couple of years. On the second date, my husband. Oh wow. That's how it works now. So what did your husband do on the second date?
I mean, on the second date, your
Mhm,
potential partner picks
mhm,
picks your last piece of chicken from your plate, right?
mm,
Mm.
mm,
And you've been saving the last piece of chicken for,
mm,
saving the
mm.
best for the last, and then your potential partner picks it up. I think at that point, it's okay to let them know that look, that wasn't nice. That wasn't nice. Don't do that. You don't do that. So like so as and when you are progressing in the
Mhm,
relationship, the
mhm,
type of boundaries will be coming up for you to
mm,
set. And that's
mm.
it. Yeah.
So to answer my question, the type of boundary definitely depends on the
On
when we
when.
are in the relationship. Mr.
Mhm.
Smith, I'm coming to you with my question, but before I do that, the comment section is just bubbling. I am cracking up. I need to share some of these comments. Dachene came in and was like, "Hello, Dachene, hello, welcome to the show. It's always good to see you. I'm not going to get back into this Ifya Yeboah thing. Everybody's asking where Ifya Yeboah is. Ifeanyi had to take a brief leave from the podcast. She's going to be back. She claims some things were said that were not said, but yeah, you know. Um, Mr. Song said, guys, you're all welcome to class today. I'll be marking the register soon. Call your friends. Call your friends who have not been to join. The class prefect is here and he's going to take the role very soon. So if you haven't, ask your friends to join the show. Um, there's another comment that's coming in. Quissy Frost said, please don't let your girlfriend use your credit card without your approval. We like I said, we have to do a whole episode on what's important and what's appropriate. Using credit card without permission, I don't need, even think, even married people, I think it is one of those things we have to really look at. A conversation should be had. Financial boundaries, absolutely. We're definitely going to talk about financial boundaries, and I'm going to bring Kwesi Frost on. I have Kwesi coming on for those of you who are looking into the podcast episodes ahead. Kwesi is going to come and tell us about marriage. If you guys look at the profile on there, it looks like he's in a wedding suit. He's going to tell us about that, and we're going to have some financial conversations with him on the topic. Someone said, Kwesi, let her use it. Yes, the credit card, let her use it. I beg. So no, that's a privilege for wife or fiance. Okay. Now there's a caveat here. So, Miss Lowe, to get back to the question, right? The when in the relationship, it looks like Kwesi is pointing to something. Is angling at that financial
Mhm.
fusion, like when Chris was talking about certain financial boundaries. Apparently, relationship is different. Fiance gets to a whole new level. Then wifey is bossy level. That's God tier. And that is the arrival stage. At that point, you can. I mean, at that point, we have joint accounts. You have the card in your purse. You can buy the $8,000 bags you want. I mean, that is if you think we are in a position for that. But definitely, we can get into the breakdown as to when and the where. Okay. I think when Chris was talking, Chrissy was excited. Talk money. We have a new member. Welcome, new members, and welcome everyone. If you're new to the show, it's the Kasa podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you're looking for more of our content, listen, you can find us everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. The ads is scrolling down there. You can find us everywhere. Just hit the follow button wherever you are. Someone is asking, where is my man Echo? Where's my man Echo? Someone said he's behind the boundary. Like, sometimes the show is even better with the comments. Someone said Echo is behind the boundary. No, Echo is not behind the boundary. Echo took a slight leave from season 2. He's gonna be back. I can promise you guys this. Echo is going to be back in the building very soon. Mina is saying, on that note, are your partner's friends your friends necessarily? And we need to really get into this. To what extent do you relate to these friends? Now, I'm going to come and pick Sam's idea on this. Sam, we're talking about handling business and it being a boundary. And for a lot of people, their friends are their friends, not our friends, right? And sometimes understanding that sort of saves a lot. Mr. Smith, what do you think? Are your partner's friends your friends?
Well, your partner's friends being your friends, it depends on how seriously you look at the word friend. I mean, your partner's friends on the surface level could be your friend. I mean, you
Mhm.
hang out together and you know they could come around and spend some time. So I feel like, yeah, on a surface level, yeah, they could be your friends, but not on a deeper level to kind of be confiding in them, telling them certain stuff, because your partner's friends' loyalty will always lie with them first because
Mm.
they met your partner first. So I think there's, yes, they are your friends to an extent, but it's levels to the friendship. Yeah.
Okay, there are levels to this. There are levels to this friendship. Miss Low, are your partner's friends your friends?
Oh, I 100% agree with Smith,
There are levels to
because
this.
yeah, there are levels to this, and in terms of loyalty, of course, your partner's friends will be more loyal to your partner than they will to you. So you'd want to watch the things you tell your partner's friends, or even want to call them friends, because you may not know, and definitely they are going to pick sides, and it's never going to be your side. If there's going to be that issue of bias where they're going to pick your partner's side,
Hmm.
and you also don't want to let your partner's friends into your relationship so much
Hmm.
and knowing so much about your relationship. No, they are not the
Okay.
right people to know about your relationship.
Hmm. Well, Mina, I hope you got your answer there, Mister.
Oh, you didn't ask me.
That's what I'm coming to you. That's why
Oh
I'm
no,
here. Um,
no. Your
are you
friends are not your friends. There's
Yeah.
no levels
Okay.
to anything. They are not your friend.
Like outright, like dismiss it. They are not your friends. They
No,
are your
no, no,
partner's
no.
friends.
Yeah, until you, yes, until you choose them to be your friends, that's
Hmm.
when I mean
Hmm.
they can be your. But
Hmm.
so far
Hmm.
as they are your partner's friend, stay because they are your partner's
Hmm.
friend. They are not your.
So Chris, your line is breaking up, but if I got you, I think you laid a very deep key on us. He said, until you choose to make them your friends. I think, Mina, I think that answers your question lovely. Like, making friends is your choice. You choose who you make your friend. You don't inherit friends. You don't become my friend because I am with someone and you're their friend. I have to choose. It's my choice. You let people in. You choose your friends. You, because there's a saying that show me your friend and I'll show you who you are or your character, right? So you have to choose your friends, and it's a very deep key Chris is dropping on us. So Mina, your partner's friends are your partner's friends. You can choose to make them your friends. And the funny thing is even a two-way street. You might choose to make them your friends, but they might not want you to be their friends, right? And so you never inherit. It's a choice you make. And I think down the line it saves people from a lot of embarrassing situations and having to blame other people when things mess up, right? Sometimes they people want to blame others for their choices. Listen, if you choose to make your partner's friends your friends, then whatever happens, you had a choice. I really like that. And to answer the question, when do we set boundaries? I think we see first was like day one, right on day one, especially with a respect boundary, right on day one, which I completely agree. Some things have to be on day one, and some things have to wait till we see how things progress. Kasa set the boundary and put echo behind. Can you believe that? PY, that is not what happened. PY, we did not set the boundaries and put echo behind. These are accusations. PY, yeah, over court. We're going to have to sue you for that. Mina, I think you should know them as in they exist, but not necessarily be close to them. That is a fierce response to that. You should know your partner's friends, but you shouldn't necessarily be close to them. Nobody wins in a food fight. Yes, Miss Lowe, about your comment on the food. I think for a lot of people, food can really be a boundary, especially when you've been asked, "Do you want anything?" And they're like, "Nah, I don't want anything." And then the minute you buy it, they are all up in the food and sometimes eat more than you do. It can be very, and so if you're someone who can share, you have to lay that out on day one. For those of us who can share, please share your food with others. It's not that it's not that um papaya really, yeah, papaya, it's not the case. Hey, second date and you've carried him across the boyfriend boundary to Osman. Yes, that is Miss Low for you. She can see into the future. She's a prophetess, and so she prophesies and then it happens. All right. Your partner's friends aren't your friends, but they can be with time. That's Kwesi's answer to that. I think Mina really did ask a lovely question. Are your partner's friends your friends? I see Efia is on vacation. Hey, sister, yes, yes, that's what I didn't want to say. But Efia is on another vacation. She's been traveling the world and she's not been doing the podcast. PY, that is more like it. Um, Jane is saying hello, guys. Jane, hello, welcome to the show. Now I'm going to get back to the conversation because the comment section is popping. And guys, keep the comments coming, keep the conversation going. I'll read a couple of them. And then we'll get through. But we're going to get back to the conversation, guys. It's not like you're going to go away scot-free. Sam. Now we've realized, right, that the type of boundary you set depends on that when you set the boundary depends on the type of boundary. But I have another one I want to ask, and this is going to be a bit tricky. But getting to know someone, building that relationship, Mr. Smith, that's the type of boundary set depend on where you want to take things with a person. Like, as to whether or not they are going to progress beyond the date state to relationship. And that would come with its boundaries. That maybe when they are going to progress from relationship to, say, fiance, they get a new type. That's the when the boundary is set, depend on where we're going with the relationship, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I could agree with that. When I'll set the boundary depends on where we are going with you. I'm going with you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let me make it a bit personal. So personally, something will offend me depending on the value you have to me, and it's clearly ties with my boundaries and what I'll set. Like, regarding friends, I can choose to set them as and when. I mean, it's as we are progressing in our relationship, there might be a time you might cross a boundary, and I would let you know then.
Mm, mm,
Because to me, there are levels to some friendships. Some are not so deep, and I mean, some are. It really depends. If I'm going to be really serious with you, like
mhm,
relationship kind of vibe,
mhm,
I would let you know a lot sooner, because since I value you so much, if I don't address certain things and I'm going to keep getting offended, it's going by certain things going to be an issue. So for something much more dear to me, I'm going to set them relatively earlier than
mm.
something like a casual friendship. I mean,
Okay.
friendship, yeah.
Chris, I'm coming back to you. Chris. We did talk about the food thing, and there's some comments I really need to get through. Miss Lo, for your food, Chrissy has an advice.
Okay.
With the food and people picking up your plate, he said, "Listen, always pick the wife or girlfriend's package when ordering food. So if you know you need 5 pieces of chicken, just pick eight. Just think of your partner. Miss Low, if you're going to get some chicken and you have a boyfriend, you know that you might only be satisfied eating four. Please buy nine. Buy nine. I am just telling you, because husband is going to come and he's going to be like, listen, I am going to enjoy some of this chicken, and uh, your portions are going to be reduced. Kwesi has dropped a very deep key there. Everyone is giving him all the props. Yeah, it saves you a lot of headaches. Yes, it does save you a lot of headaches. So now, if you're with your partner, you really need to go and buy you know food. Add them to your planning. Chris, now to you,
Yeah.
when do you set boundaries? Aside the food boundaries, which you don't have to set, just buy with them in mind. When do you set boundaries?
You set them
Mhm.
based on how the relationship is progressing.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So you get you are getting closer and closer to the
mhm.
Champions League final. That's when you you set very important boundaries. Yeah, so
Okay. Oh.
yeah, when you
Hmm.
yeah, I mean you I mean along the way maybe you know the person, you just get to know the person for just 6 months and then
Mhm,
you've already told the person all your business and all that. And
mm,
then it didn't go anywhere, like it just ended.
mhm,
But I mean you you get to study the person, you get to know the person more and more, and then you realize I mean this is going to get serious. So I need to
mhm,
start telling the person what I like and what I dislike, so that um, it's also. I mean, the boundaries are also there to make the relationship last longer,
mm,
and also do what. I mean, both of you get to do what each other like, and then it
mm,
makes you going.
mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. As we're talking about this, Efia has brought up something, and I really need to get to hear this, you guys to hear this. She's like, I think sometimes we need to set the boundaries regardless of where the relationship is heading. We know sometimes people can get a bit comfortable, hence difficult to make changes in the future. When you start dealing with someone on a certain level and they get very comfortable and they get used to you in that role, Later on, maybe making these changes would be difficult. What do you guys think? If you're going to wait till things get progress, right? Especially with the minor things, right? Like if you really don't like the way people would disrespect your friends or talk to your friends or jump into business and go and handle your business for you, would you not be better off telling the person early than waiting till now they're fiance and they've been handling your business for the last 8 months? Now you're going to tell them, listen, when it comes to my siblings, just let me handle that. Or, with this friend, let me just handle that. Wouldn't it be better to just lay things out? What do you guys think?
Okay, so for me, I think when it comes to relationships, right,
Mm-hmm.
and boundaries and telling your stuff to your partner and all that, it
Mm-hmm.
also comes with time,
Mm.
right? For example, telling your business to your partner handling that business for you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't it doesn't just come easily. That's I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you meet a person, you start telling the person your business,
Mm.
right? So these I think these responsibilities goes with the boundaries,
Mm.
or this kind of how open you are to your
Mm-hmm.
partner goes with the boundaries. The
Mm.
more you open up to your partner, that's when you set boundaries related to those kind of openness or those kind of responsibilities.
Mm.
So I mean, I don't think you have to lay all of them down early, right? Because definitely how you open up to the person also depends on how serious you take the person and the time you spend together in the relationship and all that. For
Mm.
example, if you just met someone and you have your own place, I mean, it's that partner doesn't spend all the time at your place.
Mm.
So maybe you want your stuff arranged in a particular way. I mean, you don't tell the person that I want my shoes to be here, I want my clothes to be here. But as the relationship graduates to where you spend time together,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the person comes over to your place, then not not I mean saying it. Sometimes even your action shows. Oh, if the person also sees what you've not even said. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
see that you always have your things this way.
Mm-hmm.
Then we all compromise, then I'll do that for you, you also do this for me. So I think the responsibilities and the openness also comes with the boundaries.
Okay. So I would say this, and this is what I'm adding to yours. It does come with time. And that's why we're discussing the time. When is a function of what time. I think one of the best times, and going back to what Ifya said, is when one, the rapport has been built to effectively communicate this boundary. And number two, when you have been able to put that idea or boundary clearly out in your mind. That is the time you speak about it. A lot of times, you'd meet someone and there'll be things that bother you, there'll be things that bug you, but you're not on that level with that person. You've not built enough rapport. The first date you go on with someone, a person walks in and you start telling them, listen, I like for my knives to be put on the left side of the table and it has to be as close to the edge as possible. You might come across as weird. And all you're doing is laying out your boundaries. This is my line, don't cross it. When I have an issue, don't step in. When I'm talking to a waiter, don't. When I'm making my order, don't step in. If you've not built that rapport, when is not that is not the ideal time. If you truly care about the person, you know, even with our parents and even with our siblings and with our friends, there are some things like I'll go out with Chris somewhere and would be in the company of other people. Like, say, we're in the gym with other people, and then something happens and I don't like it. Given the relationship I have with Chris, I may not even say anything. It might bug me to no end. Not a word. Maybe not even that day. Like 2 weeks later, we're having drinks, and I'm like, my boy, the other day, the way you almost crashed me with that dumbbell, it wasn't cool, crowd. If you don't do it again, I would really appreciate it. I have laid down what my line is. I have laid down my boundary, but it's dependent on what kind of relationship, what kind of bond, how much I've gotten to know the person. And I think we there's a show, there's a link to one of the episodes I've linked below. It's one of our season 1 episodes where we did an episode on boundaries, and we said boundaries are about you, not the other person. The boundaries are for you. It's for your peace, right? And sometimes in your quest to get peace, to live at peace with a person, you really have to know when the right time to push for peace is. There's a time for peace and war, but you have to know the time, because it would be a very peaceful thing you're trying to achieve, but then it might spin off into something that you completely did not intend for it to go into. So if you are, yes, you have to lay out, especially the very fine ones, the simple ones, like, you know, I would really appreciate if you didn't call me stupid, right? Basic respect stuff. Those ones you lay them out clearly, but things like, you know, finances and all that, it really would depend. And because again, people should learn to change. If you live as a wife as you did as a girlfriend, the marriage might not last, right? Every office demands a new thing. If I'm running for an election and I'm a candidate, the way I carry myself should be different from when I win the election, right? I don't know if Miss Lo, I'm making sense. So if you were dating someone and now you're a fiance, you really need to play by a different set of rules. You can't keep being a fiance. And if you're a wife and we're 5 years in the relationship and you're still spending money with nyafu nyafu like we just met, it's like the kids have to go to school, you know. Things have changed, right? Things have to be reconstructed. That same way the rules has to change. Like you can't be a high schooler in grad school. It's not going to work when you are up, when you go to the next level. So if yeah, yes, people would have to change. People would have to change, right? I would read some of the comments. Some of the comments are very powerful. Let's get through some of them and we'll get to the last segment of this conversation, which I feel is the most important thing, the how. We're going to be talking about how we set these boundaries, how we communicate these boundaries. I think I have so many questions. I have like a million questions to ask you guys about how we go about it. But before that, Jane is saying some people set boundaries to prevent you from knowing some things that they did in the past, which might not be healthy for you immediately. They may want to tell you when they think it's right. Now that's interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. uh I would let you guys, if you guys have anything to say something.
Hmm.
I am blank on this one. Miss Lou, you have something on this?
I think we should read the other comments.
Because
I'm
I
thinking
feel there's
about
some
it.
deceit in there. There's some low-key
I
deceit in there.
mean, what are you
The thing
hiding?
that, yeah. If you've killed someone, please let me know the very first day.
Right?
I don't want to be
Mhm.
yeah. But
If it's
it's
not going to
interesting.
be healthy for me immediately, it's
Mhm.
never going to be healthy for me any later. So you might as well just spell it now.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah. What kind of skeletons are you hiding in your cupboard? Chris, what do you think?
Um, uh, I, I mean, I'll pass on that.
Ah, okay. So Jane, your comment is such a missile. Everybody is just jumping by it. I know Mr. Smith is going to pass on this one. Mina is saying, I think, irrespective of the relationship, whether friendship or beyond, there are obviously things you wouldn't like. So you could set those urgent boundaries and let the others follow with time. I completely agree. The ones that are extremely urgent, Mina, you lay them out on day one, and then the rest can come later. But the hidden ones, the secret ones, the unhealthy immediate ones, there we're still Miss Jane. You'd probably have to tell us a little more because some of us are we're running away. You can't tell someone
Exactly.
everything about you on day one. Yes. And sometimes they have to work for it. There's some boundaries you have to work. You have to earn the right to hear that boundary. And boundaries are just my boundary. I would keep them as we build a relationship, as we build that rapport. Maybe you would earn a seat at that table. Um, no, it is. Like I said, they want to tell you, but they want to do it when it's right. I agree with the when it's right bit completely, but the unhealthy bit is what is getting everybody a bit tripped up. Ike is saying, great conversation today. I think the way a boundary is set also determines how relationships develop. Huh. Guys, did you see that? She just flipped it up on us. We're saying as the relationship is developing, the boundaries will come with it. But Ikea is saying the way you set the boundaries to can shape what kind of relationship that develops. What do you guys think? I think we need to address this. Mr. Smith, what do you think? Do you think the way where the relationship is going can determine what kind of boundaries are set, not what kind of boundaries are set leading to the other way, or whatever it is? What do you think? Is it reversible?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I mean, the kind of boundary you set will also tell me a lot about you. So it's gonna play a part in what more I would want to do with you, and vice versa. That's how I feel. I see it. I mean,
Hmm.
depending on the kind of boundaries you set, how early you set them, it speaks a lot about you as
Mhm.
well. So I'm going to be picking up stuff from that, and it will determine, I mean, the kind of relationship I have with you going forward. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think. Okay, okay. I say good morning from Brisbane. We slept late because of the Man United game. Please mark me off the register. Song, please mark it off. But Christine, it's good that you stayed up towards greatness. We really appreciate that you joined the show, and it's a good way to continue with the Casa podcast after you've enjoyed the Manchester United game. Um, I say enjoy because Man United fans really enjoyed. And it's not like me low key bragging that we beat Arsenal. No, that is not what I'm doing here at all. We didn't beat them 3-1. I beg you guys, I am not talking about that. Chris, let me hear you. Let me hear you on that.
um,
Oh, you can say three things or one thing, but we need to know where you stand. Are you Man U or Arsenal? Is it three things or one thing? Can the boundaries determine what kind of relationship you get, or the relationship determine what kind of boundaries you set? That's kind of what we're talking about.
I think it goes both ways,
Mm,
right? Some okay, yes. First, let me tackle the first part where some boundaries will let you know how far this relationship will go.
mm-hmm,
Because I mean, we you want to end up with the right person, and but
absolutely.
however, if you are ready to compromise, that's fine. So you set some boundaries, and then you want to see how your partner handles that kind of boundaries,
Mm-hmm,
or how the person is able to compromise or accept whatever you don't like.
mm-hmm,
And on the other way around, to um, every relationship, or depending on how you know the person or how far you have known the person, will inform you on the kind of boundaries you set. So I think it's both ways.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've agreed on the what boundaries are, why they're important, how we set them, I think it's very important to go about discussing how we go about setting these boundaries. Because the why would be very important and it would be right. The when would be just the right time. But if you miss the how, this whole boundary conversation will pass you by. So, guys, let's dive in. How do we go about setting boundaries? How do we go about carrying out the ideas in our head? Miss Law, I'll start with you. How do we set these boundaries?
Yeah, so I think from one of the comments said something about how you set or how you communicate these boundaries could determine the future of the relationship.
Mm,
So if I'm getting to know someone, and for instance on day one there are so
mhm,
many rules.
mm,
I like this, I like my food this way,
mhm,
I don't eat stale foods, I eat fresh
mhm,
food every day. I'm working out.
mm,
You can't deal with someone being so authoritative and demanding so much from you. At that
mhm,
point, there's no compromise to it. If you can do it, fine, but it's how you even talk about it. Don't say it's like it's a sort of like a requirement for you just to make you happy in the relationship, because it becomes one-sided. It becomes
mm,
a selfish
mm,
need, because
mm,
there are certain boundaries, and it's all aligned to you and making you happy. So at
Mm-hmm.
that point, setting boundaries, the way you communicate it can even say a lot about you or your
Mm,
personality.
mm,
So as you're talking about it, you just have to know the right way to say, the choice of words you even pick
mm,
when you're
mm,
setting these boundaries,
mm-hmm,
add some element of kindness, some element of love, respect, and it shouldn't just be rule one, do this, rule two, do this. No. I
mm,
mean, you have to state it in a way that will be appealing, but then
mm,
again be exact in setting the boundaries. Yeah.
You've said so many things. There's so
I
much in there
know.
to unpack. But before we unpack that, I think there's a very interesting thing Christine is pointing our attentions to. When Chris was speaking, right, we talked about the boundary sort of leading where the conversation or the relationship goes. Christine is saying, I disagree. You set boundaries to see how a person handles it. That's testing them. That's different. You set the boundaries because of your own values and you communicate these boundaries to the person. So, boundaries are not a test. It's not, let me see how many things I can throw your way and see how you navigate it. No, the goal of the boundary is to enable or ensure or help you live at peace with this person, have a healthy relationship with this person. It's not to try and see if the person can live up to your standard or live up to. And so that alone sort of dovetails neatly into what Christine was saying, right? How it's being communicated. Is it clear? Are you saying what you mean? Sometimes we say a lot, but we never say what we mean, or we don't mean what we say. When it comes to boundary, I think one of the how to go about it is clearly communicating, crystallizing it, make it crystal clear. Let the person walk away from the conversation knowing exactly what they had. A boundary like that thing you did, please don't do it again, is no boundary. It is no boundary. And so one of the things is a clear, concise, crystallized conversation. Mr. Smith, what are the things? How do we go about it? Tell us about the why and the how.
I think most of the how revolves around, of course, communication. And Miss Lou said a lot, which captures it. You need to be, as well as you, I mean, you need to be as clear as possible, as respectful as well. You need to say exactly what you want, not like sending half messages, signals, reactions. Those are not effective ways to communicate and put your point across. You have to make sure you are very clear, respectful,
Hmm,
polite about it.
hmm,
In order not to also come off too strong and disrespectful and offensive. And I think in the end, both of you benefit from that kind of communication.
absolutely. Chris, what do you have to add?
I think I'm going to agree with what Smith and then Miss Law also said.
Mhm,
I mean, coming out very clear and but still being respecting the other person is
mhm,
very important. Yeah.
mhm,
And you should be very clear and exact. Like the example you gave. If you are telling the person what you did, don't repeat it. What exactly are you talking about? You have
What are
to,
you saying?
yeah, you have to state whatever you or whatever boundary you want you have in mind. You have
Mhm,
to make sure you are communicating it very clear.
mhm. Interesting. I think there's a comment here that's going to really tie up everything I was about to say. But Kwesi first says, boundaries start with respect. If you respect your partner, you don't do certain things. And when it comes to the how we set up boundaries, I think I like to think of it this way. Think of boundaries as a meal, as a dish you're making in the kitchen. You're the chef, you're making some of the ingredients that you absolutely cannot do without if you really want to set boundaries: respect, love, kindness. These three things have to be in the pot if you really want to set boundaries. No matter what kind of relationship, no matter where the relationship is going, You need to set your boundaries with love, with respect, and with kindness. And I like to think of it this way: whoever you're communicating these boundaries to, you really have to put yourself on the other side of the conversation. If you can't sit on the other side and learn from whatever you're saying, it's not time. The time to say it doesn't come. You have to be able to clearly communicate what the boundary is. It has to be thought about and communicated in kindness. I always say there's never a reason to be unkind. The fact that you have a boundary, and sometimes even if the person has crossed it on, the person doesn't know about it, the fact that you have a boundary doesn't make you unique and it doesn't give you the right to be unkind. Sometimes people communicate very disrespectfully, and you hear this phrase thrown about a lot. Me, I say it as it is. Me, I'm very plain. Me, I'm straight. No, 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 no. Let's not do that. If you really care and respect the person, you communicate with love. You communicate with kindness, and sometimes the person gets a lot, hears a lot when you're communicating in kindness. Last week on the show, Ifya said something. She said she's one person who stops listening the minute someone starts raising their voice at them. When you start yelling, when you start, abusing them, she's just not listening. That way, you've not communicated. Your boundary has not been set. You walk away thinking you have set boundaries, but a person didn't hear you. And so being able to communicate it, and I like these three ingredients really should be in there. If you really want to go about setting your boundaries, it has to be clear, but there has to be a lot of respect, love, and kindness in there. Mr. Smith, do you have more to add to how we set our boundaries?
Uh, no, I think it's. I will stick to the points earlier. Effective communication, like
Mm,
you said, love, um, respect. Those are
mhm.
essential, and we can't
Oh,
do without that. Yeah.
okay. I think we've had a lovely discussion on boundaries. I think we're going to end it here, especially the conversation on boundaries. I don't want us to give Ifya Yeboah the right to brag about her Kasa podcast team.
I
But
just
if,
have one more thing to add
yes,
if
ma'am.
we have time. In one of the comments, someone said you shouldn't set boundaries because you want to test your partner
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm,
just because you want to see how your partner handles that
mm-hmm,
boundary. But I think it's important to know how your partner is going to take the boundary you're setting.
mm,
So, if, for instance, you're telling your partner that you can't go out with my friends
mm-hmm,
or at a certain time or go out with my female friends at a certain time when I'm not around, and
mm-hmm.
your partner is all upset about it, why can't I go out with your female friends? You need to watch it because you may never know what will be brewing from that friendship without you. So you have to
Ish.
be aware of how they handle your boundaries. It's all part of the respect. They are
It's
respecting the boundary you are setting, and that matters a lot.
it's the specificity of this example for me. It's how specific. Like this is a clearly diced out example. Don't go out with my female friends. And if you dare challenge that, then it tells us a little more. Absolutely. And I think what you said, it's funny, but in my mind, it really works with the main point Christine was making. If you're saying this to your friend or your partner with the intention of testing them, then you're going about it wrong. If it is actually a boundary, if it's something you feel it's important, and I think, again, most people, some of these things have to go without saying. One, your partner's friends are not your friends. Going out to your girlfriend's friends at night without her, to me it's just creepy, but we'll let that slide. Right, we'll just let that slide. But whenever you're communicating this, it's not, I'm not trying to trap you. I'm not trying to say something will happen. I'm not trying to put any ideas in your head. This works for me. This doesn't. And sometimes, I don't know, but I feel some things are best not even communicated. Like if you're a young person, a young man or a young woman, there's some lines you really don't want to be crossing. So with this Priscilla, I understand this is not testing. This is like, bro, do I need to tell you this? Like, I completely agree. At this point, I'm like, come on, don't put people in a position to set certain boundaries. That's what I would say. Sometimes we should be decent enough not to put our partners in a position to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're my partner, and I'm earning $50,000, right? And we making financial decisions, and you go and buy a $15,000 bag. You don't have to let me say, like, do I need to do I need to tell you how very don't put me in that position, right? Let's do things that would help our relationship succeed. If you deliberately do things that would jeopardize the relationship, some people would deliberately put you in a position where you'll be uncomfortable. Some of the boundaries will pinch you small. Going out, you call me 1 in the morning. Hey, Kojo, where are you? I'm going out with your friends. We're going. Sure, sure. You come back and meet me. He's a Presla. I understand. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, the whole idea is not to test your
Mm-hmm.
partner,
Mm-hmm.
but if you are laying out boundaries, and like we said, boundaries are for you, your peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
The intention is not to test that partner,
Mm-hmm.
but if you are laying them down and the person is not respecting that, then that is telling you a lot about how this relationship is going to end or
Exactly.
how far it's going to go. So the whole idea is not to test, but it also gives you an idea of what you are entering into. That's all.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
I think Christine just summed it up for us. I love that. She said, "Sis, if your man is going out with your girlfriends at all hours of the night, listen, that's a red flag. I agree.
Period.
This one, it's not even boundaries matter. Listen, sometimes they just don't do things. They don't do things. Several flags. Yeah, this is red, black, pink, everything. Like at this point, come on. Let's not do this. Don't put people in a position to have to say something. Sometimes we make it hard for people. Sometimes we make
Nice
like,
comment.
why are you letting me say this? Like, boundaries come in when they're
There is no common
oh
sense.
oh oh. And I kind of think Song just said what we are all sort of shying away from. Like, there are some things I feel just decency, not common sense per se, but you just know it's not right to do to someone. Like, don't let me have to say this. Some boundaries, if you let me have it. I, and I know a lot of people who would walk away from a relationship and have to say certain things, right? If you put a person in a position where they are going to have to tell you basic things like, this is just not right, don't go and insult my mother, don't, like, I would just leave. I'm not coming to micromanage your life, right? And so yes, some of these are red flags. Some boundaries come in when you put someone in. Please don't do that. At what point does what a breach boundary become red flags? Hmm does anyone want to take this? At what point does a breached boundary become a red flag?
I think when it's happening repeatedly,
Mm-hmm.
you've stated your boundary clearly, and this person has no regard for that boundary, and it keeps going on, then it's a red flag. There's an absence of respect right there.
Hmm. I think it depends.
Someone said the moment is
Yeah,
breached.
Kwesi said the moment. I think it depends, right? I
It
think it
depends.
depends. Various boundaries have various punitive measures, but Christine, I would say this: some boundaries, when crossed, especially again, the goal of the boundary is to help us live in peace. There are some things when you do, there are some lines when you cross, the peace is gone. So it's best we just go away, right? Like, just leave. Let's just end this. And there's some that we can work around it. We can talk about it. We can put things in place. I think some boundaries can cause like a rebirth of like three different. Some boundaries are like the Hydra. If you breach them, we give you like six different ones. Maybe the big one was too difficult for you, so I'll break it down into smaller parts. Like, don't go out at night drinking when you're going to make silly mistakes, and don't make sure you're not puking in people's cars. Like, I'll break it down for you. Maybe the first boundary was, listen, I know you can have fun, but be responsible. then you go and mess up the whole thing. Well, I'll give you smaller ones that will help you, you know, be able to stick up to the big one. So I think it really depends on what kind of boundary it is. But some boundaries, when they cross, the person is not trying to live at peace with you. And so, young man, young woman, just pack your things and just jet. Sometimes it's the best way to handle some of these things. The comments are coming in so thick and fast, and I appreciate you guys so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys in the comment section. You guys are making this conversation a lot more fun. Hey, Kwame is here. Kwame is here. Hey, our lady has taken a fair shine. Okay, bye. Should the boundaries be from one person or both? Huh, interesting. Guys, let's answer a few of these questions coming in the chat and then we can call it a night.
Both
I'm
ways.
going to tell you guys on the show right now. Today we're not doing any sports talk at the end. No podcast league. We don't want to know that Chris is last in the Kasa podcast. We're not going to talk about.
Check
No,
check my ranking. You check my ranking.
we don't
Just
want
check.
to know.
Just check.
Miss Lo, you were saying something.
Yeah, to that question, that
Mhm.
it goes both ways. I mean, in as much as I'm setting my boundaries, I also do not want to step on your toes. So
Mhm.
I'll try and respect any boundary that you're setting, and
Mhm.
it goes both
Mhm.
ways.
Yeah.
I can't be
It
selfish in this.
it does go both ways. Mr.
Yeah.
Smith,
But if
what do
it,
you think?
Oh, definitely. If you are laying out boundaries for others to adhere to, of course, in that thought, you should know that there should be, or there are small, most likely things the other person will not like you to also cross. So it should be for both of us. I mean, once the other party involved has boundaries, yeah, it should both of us should put in place our boundaries and enjoy a respectful relationship.
Hmm. Interesting. Chris, what do you say to that? Is it a two-way street?
yeah, it's a two-way street. But if your partner is laying down boundaries and you don't have any boundaries to lay, don't try and make things up.
I
Don't try
I
and
agree.
don't
I
try
agree.
and make things up. Also, you know, if your partner lays down boundaries, right? Let's say, don't touch my food, right? This is an example. Don't touch my food. You should also try as much as possible not to, sometimes even though the partner is saying, don't touch my, well, I mean, I'm telling my partner, don't touch my food. Don't also do that because
Mm,
sometimes it can bring, I mean, even though the person hasn't laid down those boundaries, but I mean, I think you should do unto others what you want others to do unto
others
you.
to do
That's
to
all.
you. I
What if
think
my
it's fair.
partner doesn't have a problem with me touching his food? He
That's what
can't
I'm
touch mine,
saying.
but maybe he doesn't have a problem with me touching his
That's
food.
what I'm saying. That I mean, you should not. Food is just a simple example, but there are some extreme cases
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't also, I mean, do whatever you don't want others to do unto you. That's all.
I get you.
I
But don't
completely
try,
agree.
don't force and make boundaries when you don't have them.
I completely agree. And I think it's one of those things we were talking about last week, right? Where people you go to tell someone something and they have to come up with something, right? Just
Me
because you're
too.
setting a boundary, whether
Me
they
too.
have some or not, they're going to. I think it's a good advice. Don't start making up boundaries because you've been asked not to do certain things. And as much as possible, just for fairness, not just in your relationship, in life generally, just do unto others what you want them to do unto you. It's a very lovely thing. If you don't like it when your shoe is stepped on, just don't go about stepping on people's shoes because you didn't like it, right? Well, why are you doing it to others? I think it's a very good advice, Chris. I completely agree. And Chris said, check the stats. I really didn't want to bring this up, but guys, I think Chris has earned his stripe. Chris, I respect it. I respect it, guys.
Show them. Show them.
Chris is what fifth on the table. He is
Show
fifth on
them.
the table. Chris, I respect that. Oh, guys, I'm still sinking, guys. Please pray for me. This FPL league is not going well. I started at the top. I was first at a point.
Show
Guys,
them.
I have swallowed lead. now I'm last. And on that note, yes, we're done. We've seen it, Chris. Good job, congrats, and we hope you win the PlayStation. If your boss PlayStation is still up for grabs, if you haven't done that yet, I'm going to put this on one last time. This is how you join the Casa League. This is the code. Just join. We're not going to talk about it too much because the Man City young woman is not here. And if Yebo has been banned from speaking about soccer on the podcast, we are not talking about soccer again on this podcast. And so please join the Casa League. This has been our conversation on boundaries, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We really appreciate you sticking with us, listening to the show, sending your comments in. And on the last note, I'd like to wish one of my favorite people on the planet, one of my very good friends, one of our Casa podcasts um, supporting listeners. He's been with us since season one. He's listened to almost every episode. He's been promoting, and it's his birthday. Marcus, happy birthday, Marcus. I hope you enjoy this show. I hope you enjoy your day. I hope this year brings lots of wins, more joy, more love. We here at the tribe wish you a very happy birthday. And on that note, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for listening. And once again, from the tribe, it's
Bye.
bye.